Before we dive into the heart of ancient power plays, imagine this. A colossal temple rises from the desert sands, its walls etched with towering figures of gods, and a single man who stands among them, not as a worshiper, but as their equal. Crowds of thousands bow before him, not just out of fear, but because they believe he's chosen by the heavens themselves. One wrong word against him isn't just treason, it's blasphemy against the divine order of the universe. This isn't a scene from a fantasy epic. This was reality for millions in the ancient world, where kings didn't just rule, they were gods on earth. Or at least, that's what they wanted you to think. But how did this divine right propaganda take root? Was it genuine spiritual belief or a clever political tool to keep the masses in line? And above all, did it work? We'll uncover the secrets together in this episode of Mind Origins. Before we unravel the grand deceptions or revelations of ancient kings, have you ever wondered where the idea of divine right really came from? Some historians say it grew naturally from early religious practices, where leaders blurred the lines between mortal and immortal to maintain order. Others argue it's pure propaganda, a myth crafted by cunning rulers to justify absolute power and crush rebellions. So who holds the truth? Are these divine claims echoes of genuine ancient faith, or elaborate cons pulled off by history's greatest spin doctors? Or does modern scholarship have the final say, debunking it all as clever psychology wrapped in theology? There's only one way to find out, and it starts in a way you might not expect, with the cradle of civilization itself. Our journey begins around 3000 BCE in Mesopotamia, the fertile land between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, often called the birthplace of organized society. Here, in city-states like Uruk and Sumer, kings weren't just administrators, they were the gods' chosen intermediaries. Take Enmerkar, one of the earliest legendary kings of Uruk. According to ancient Sumerian texts, he claimed direct divine favor from Inanna, the goddess of love and war. Enmerkar boasted that Inanna herself had chosen him to build her temples and lead her people. This wasn't casual name-dropping, it was strategic. By linking his rule to the gods, he turned obedience into a religious duty. Disobey the king, you were disobeying the heavens. By the 23rd century BCE, things escalated with Naram-Sin of Akkad, grandson of Sargon the Great. Naram-Sin didn't just claim divine favor, he declared himself a god. On his famous victory stele, now in the Louvre, he's shown wearing a horned helmet, a symbol reserved for deities. The inscription says the people begged him to become divine after his conquests. Historians suspect this was clever PR. Naram-Sin built one of the world's first multi-ethnic empires, stretching from the Persian Gulf to the Mediterranean. To hold it together, he didn't just need armies, he needed ideology. Divine status made rebellion not just dangerous, but sacrilegious. Temples were built in his honor. Hymns praised him as the god of Akkad. It worked for a while, but after his death, the empire crumbled under invasions and internal strife, perhaps a sign that even gods could fall. Fast forward to around 2100 BCE, to Shulgi of the 3rd dynasty of Ur. Shulgi took propaganda to new heights. He reformed the bureaucracy, standardized weights and measures, and built the Great Ziggurat of Ur, a massive step pyramid dedicated to the moon god Nana. Hymns from his era describe him running superhuman distances, feats only possible with divine strength. Why the hype? Shulgi inherited a fractured kingdom and used divine kingship to centralize power. Priests who controlled vast temple estates preached that Shulgi was the earthly embodiment of Dumuzi, the shepherd god. This wasn't just ego, it was economic. Divine status let him tax temples and redirect resources without pushback. But like Naram-Sin, his successors couldn't keep the charade forever. By the last UR3 king, invaders sacked the cities, and the divine mandate seemed revoked. Now let's cross the desert to ancient Egypt, where divine kingship wasn't a late addition, it was baked into the foundation. From the unification of Upper and Lower Egypt around 3100 BCE by Narmer, pharaohs were seen as living gods. Narmer's famous palette shows him smiting enemies while wearing the crowns of both regions, symbolizing unity under divine rule. But the real propaganda machine revved up with the Old Kingdom pharaohs. Take Djoser, builder of the first pyramid around 2650 BCE. His architect, Imhotep, designed the step pyramid at Saqqara not just as a tomb, but as a stairway to the gods. Djoser claimed to be the son of Ra, the sun god, ensuring Ma'at, the cosmic order of justice and harmony. No one embodied divine propaganda like Khufu, builder of the Great Pyramid of Giza around 2580 BCE. This wasn't just a monument, it was a statement. Over 2 million stone blocks hauled by thousands of workers, all to house a king who was Horus incarnate on earth and Osiris in the afterlife. Inscriptions tell tales of pharaohs performing miracles like Sneferu parting waters or healing the sick. Why the extravagance? Egypt's society was hierarchical, with the pharaoh at the apex as the intermediary between gods and people. Floods, harvests, victories, all credited to the pharaoh's divine favor. Failures? Blamed on enemies or disloyal subjects disrupting Ma'at. This system kept the Nile Valley stable for centuries, but demanded constant reinforcement through rituals like the Heb-Sed festival. Things got even intense in the New Kingdom with Ramesses II, the Great, around 1279 BCE. Ramesses didn't just claim divinity, he built an empire of stone propaganda. At Abu Simbel, he carved 4 65-foot statues of himself into a cliff, seated among gods. Twice a year, sunlight illuminated his figure, symbolizing eternal divine light. His inscriptions boast of single-handedly defeating the Hittites, exaggerated of course. He fathered over 100 children, named temples after himself, and even deified his favorite wife, Nefertari. This wasn't vanity, it was survival. After foreign invasions disrupted the divine line, pharaohs doubled down on propaganda to prevent uprisings. Shifting east to ancient China, divine kingship took a unique twist with the Mandate of Heaven. Introduced during the Zhou dynasty around 1046 BCE, but rooted in earlier Shang practices. Shang kings ruled as divine intermediaries, consulting gods through oracle bones. The Zhou overthrew them, claiming the Shang lost the mandate due to tyranny. Emperors like Qin Shi Huang declared themselves Son of Heaven, building massive tombs guarded by the terracotta army. The mandate's conditional nature sometimes backfired. Peasant revolts cited heavenly signs to overthrow unworthy rulers. In ancient India, divine kingship wove through Vedic hymns and epics. Kings were protected by gods like Indra and Varuna, granted Raja Dharma, the divine duty to rule justly. Ashoka the Great, after his bloody conquest, styled himself as a Chakravartin, a universal ruler turned by Dharma. His rock edicts proclaim him beloved of the gods, blending Buddhist ethics with royal propaganda. Kings like Rama were avatars of Vishnu, incarnating to restore cosmic order. Temples and inscriptions reinforced divine status, but failures sparked resistance. In Mesoamerica and the Americas, kings elevated divine right to bloody heights. Mayan kings claimed descent from gods, performing bloodletting rituals to prove divine essence. Aztec emperors demanded human sacrifices to sustain the world. Inca kings claimed descent from the sun god Inti, using solar observatories and mummified ancestors to reinforce godhood. Persian kings like Darius I invoked Ahura Mazda as their divine patron. The Behistun inscription declared his divine right to crush rebels. Kings were earthly fighters against chaos, justifying vast conquests. How was this propaganda spread? Through architecture, like Egypt's Karnak temple? Through art, Mesopotamian cylinder seals? Through rituals, China's Feng Shan sacrifices? Through inscriptions, India's Ashokan edicts? Through myths, Alexander the Great claiming divine parentage? The benefits, absolute loyalty, centralized power, unified empires. The risks, when kings failed, backlash